What's up, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video, and in this one I want to break down what's happening with SPY, Tesla, NVIDIA, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers, and break down what's happening with the economic calendar moving forward, talk about big factors involving the markets, and what you should be watching for as time goes on. But just note that I am not a financial planner, so make sure you take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link. If you deposit $100, you're guaranteed 5 free stocks. If you deposit $1,000, you're guaranteed 15 in total, not to mention an 8.1% APY on uninvested cash. Soft rinse in just a couple of weeks, so check it out before they run out. Anyways, for the market, we are looking absolutely crazy right now. The market saw a little bit of an upside after CPI came out during the pre-market, and then once the market opened, we dumped really hard. We dumped almost 10 points, only to see a big rally back up to the upside, which tells us who has the edge. So right now, the bulls are on fire. They have the bigger edge right now. They ended up outplaying the Bears. And the question is, what's going to happen at this point moving forward? So I want to talk about some data first before I break down these charts. So firstly, we had CPI today. Everything was aligned with expectations. Some things were below expectations, which is really good. Core CPI was at 0.3%, aligned with expectations. Core CPI year over year was at 3.2%. That was also aligned with expectations, the same as what we got before. CPI for month over month was at 0.2%, aligned with expectations. However, CPI for all items year over year was at 2.5%. That is below expectations. And the market liked that. So I was correct in my video yesterday about how I said CPI was looking more bullish for the markets, and the market would end up getting a bullish reaction for the next day. However, what I couldn't have predicted was the exact nuances in the market, the exact details about how this was going to pan out. We started off with this big dump, then we saw a V-shaped recovery for a big pump. So ultimately, yes, the bulls had the edge, but it was pretty wild the way this panned out, and this is actually looking a lot better. So what's good about this is this: when SPY was dumping last week, I think actually I think the 4 hours can look a little bit better for this. So when SPY was dumping last week, right, we dumped all the way down to 537. If you guys look at the chart, and what happened today was SPY started dumping again, but we didn't lose 537. We actually went down to the very, very high 539s, and then we bounced off of that. So we have this low here. We came up, we established a higher low, then we came up and broke the high. So this is a sign of a bullish trend. So we're looking more bullish now because of the fact that we did that. So there's no way I could have predicted the way this would pan out, but I was leaning more bullish after CPI came out in my video yesterday. That ended up being the correct move, as the market ultimately did get bought back up. So it was pretty wild the way this panned out. CPI is looking pretty decent, at least in terms of the data. I know for a fact I don't fully trust every piece of data. I know data can be very biased in the way it's collected, the way it's analyzed and presented. But all I can really do as a trader and as someone that's presenting the data is to be unbiased and tell the truth that this is what the data is telling us and the market is liking this. So this is fueling a rally in the markets. And part of the reason why is because now we're anticipating the Fed's going to give us a cut. Once again, we got a good CPI, so the market's a lot more confident that the Fed will give us some kind of cuts. And we're seeing a lot of confidence shifting because of that. So the question is, what's happening for tomorrow? We have more data coming out for tomorrow. Tomorrow is going to be Thursday, September 12th, 2024. 1 hour before the market opens at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have the PPI report coming out for month over month and year over year, and the same thing for core. This is very similar to CPI, except it's for the wholesale side. So I expect more volatility tomorrow. Now, we're expecting month over month PPI to be the same at 0.1%, which is what we got last time. We're expecting core month over month to be at 0%, the same as before. And then for year over year, we're expecting core to actually come down a bit and be around 2.4%, which is similar to before, but still, once again, a little bit down compared to what we saw, even like well before. And then finally, the last PPI, we're expecting it to be around 2%, so a little bit of a decrease in PPI year over year. So that's very similar to CPI, the expectations. We're expecting everything to be very similar to before, except for PPI year over year. We're expecting it to be around 2%. So if we get a decent report, this could fuel even more upside in the markets, because once again, it kind of insinuates the Fed will most likely cut, since there's not really much other pieces of data coming out. And then if we get a hot PPI, it could slow things down a bit, but that's looking a little bit less likely based on what the charts are looking like. We also have initial jobless claims before the market opens, so we'll see what that looks like. But the main thing to be watching for tomorrow is going to be all these PPI reports and initial jobless claims. Then at 11:30 a.m., we have the 4 and 8 week bill auctions, so look for volatility during that time. That is it for the data for tomorrow. One last thing I want to go over to make this video more simple and then talk about the charts is this the fear and greed index is becoming closer to neutral. So we were very fearful. Now we're back to neutral. We're getting very close to it. So this is a sign that the market's building some confidence, building some strength. Momentum indicators are back to neutral as we're seeing SPY holding very well above its 125 daily moving average. That's a good sign for us moving forward as buyers have the edge. On top of this, the puts and call option ratio is at extreme fear. So what happened was people started shorting the hell out of the markets. People were continuing to buy puts. We saw the put and call option ratio going up and up and up and up over the last 5 days. And then what happens? The market makers squeeze shorts. They cause a big short squeeze. They trapped a lot of people when they caused the market to dump. So that's very, very interesting. They dumped the market today to trick so many people. People thought the market was going to crash, right? I said to watch our support to see if we bounce. I said we're going to likely fill the gap if we had lost 542, then watch and see how we react to that. And lo and behold, we got a big bounce. Instead, we weren't just completely bearish, falling into like the 530s. We came to about 539.9, then we came back up. So that just goes to show the trickery of these market makers. Last thing is the VIX looks a little bit more bearish. We're barely at the 50 daily moving average. So we're at some key support on the VIX. We'll see if this breaks or not. Anyways, that's it, at least for data. I want to make the data part very simple today. Why is tomorrow going to be crazy? The answer is the market may see some insane volatility again, but a lot of it may be dictated by the PPI reports. So they're going to use this as the next excuse. They use CPI as the excuse to dump the market, then pump it. Are they going to do the same thing again tomorrow with PPI? It's always a possibility, so just be prepared for that just to be safe. So if we're bearish on SPY, just hypothetically, watch 553 as support. If we lose that, I'm going to be looking for 550, followed by 548. That's going to be where our 20 EMA happens to be. If we're bullish, you want to break past 556. If we break that, I think we go up to 558, then 560 to fill this imbalance. All right, so that's the more bullish target. That's the more bearish target. What do I think is going to happen? I wouldn't be surprised if we gap down tomorrow and continue to pump, because if you look at the last 3 days, okay, we're holding the low here. We got a big bullish wick right here, and we're trending upwards. I think this imbalance is going to act as a magnet, and the market's going to likely continue to hold up, maybe even an uptrend approaching the next FOMC meeting. So there's a good chance we try to continue from here, looking at how bullish the daily looks. We got a good volume. Volume went up for SPY. We saw a potential PPO contraction here, so we're turning more bullish. Bearish momentum is slowing down, and we have 3 nice days in a row where SPY is trending upwards with this very, very bullish looking wick. So this suggests that we could dip a little bit tomorrow morning. It's possible to retest like 552, 553. Then we could start pushing and try to get up to 556, which if we break, we could get closer to 560. So it looks more bullish to me. At least 556 should be coming or higher. We favor upside on SPY. For ES, we look more bullish because the daily is getting a lot of strength. We're seeing a lot of buyers stepping in, and we're holding above our key EMAs right now. So watch 5580's resistance. If that breaks, we're looking for 5600. We also have some resistance at 5560. I forgot to mention that. So 5565 and then 5580 and then 5600, 3 resistance levels. For support, make sure you watch 5530. If that fails, we dip back down. So we're kind of stuck within that area, but I think we're favoring upside looking at the daily and the 4-hour. So we could get very close to about the 5600 area. We have a low right here. We came up, made a higher low. So as long as there's no bad news, we may continue to push for 5580, then even higher to 5600. So we look more bullish. For NVIDIA has a nice inverse head and shoulders like structure that was developing. I called this out yesterday. I said there's an inverse head and shoulders. If we get a big break of our resistance at 110, we're looking for breakouts to at least 112 and 115. And that's what happened. We got all the way up to these targets. So what do I see from here? I think the daily chart's going to be key for NVIDIA now. If we're bearish tomorrow, just hypothetically, you want to see NVIDIA lose 114. If 114 fails us, we could be tipping for 112 and 110. If we're bullish, we want to continue to hold above at least 115. As long as we hold that, I think we fill the gap and we go up to about 119 to 120. We also have another gap to fill at 125. I'm not going to count on that yet. For now, we're just looking at 120. So from a technical standpoint, we could dip to retest 115, then bounce, start pushing for that gap fill all the way up towards that 119 to 120 area. So I favor upside on NVIDIA. The daily looks more bullish, and we're looking pretty good in my personal opinion. So far, so good. As far as Bitcoin goes, we look a little bit more bullish based off this PPO crossover, but we haven't broken some key resistance at 57,858. If we break the 57,858 area, we're looking for a big pump to about 59,000. If we reject here, we could be dipping back down to 56,000. So far, it favors upside a little bit more, but this resistance is kind of tough. So we'll see if Bitcoin can break this tomorrow. I favor it might dip a little bit and try to push higher, but we're going to make an attempt to break to 58,000. And we'll see if it breaks or not for confirmation. For Tesla, we look bullish. Why do we look bullish? Because we had this low on Friday at 210. Since then, we made a higher high, higher high, higher high. We're continuing to break the highs every single day from the last days before. So we're continuing to break out since Friday. We're making higher highs compared to Friday, and we're trending upwards. Additionally, I just want to call out that if you look at Tesla, now I know that on the much bigger time frame, Tesla is down compared to its all-time high, but I'm not talking about Tesla breaking all-time highs. For those who are concerned about that, I'm simply talking about the short term. What's been happening for the shorter term? What's been happening for the next couple of days, next couple of weeks? What's happening for all of those? So Tesla is riding this yellow trend line. We're bouncing off support so far, so we're uptrending. If you look at the last month and a half, Tesla's been on an uptrend. We have a nice inverse head and shoulder setup approaching the robotaxi event, and we look more bullish for the short term. So hypothetically, if Tesla were to lose, okay, if we were to lose 225, you're looking for 222, then 220. And if we manage to hold above 228, we're looking for 230, then 230, basically this 234 area. So I presume that from a technical standpoint, Tesla could retest a breakout at 226, then start to push higher, and we're most likely going to be going up to 230, if not the low 230s. We do have some tough resistance around 235. We did reject there many times historically, but we're not there yet, and we do favor a push for the 230s right now looking at the daily chart. So Tesla looks more bullish to me. For NQ, we look more bullish. We're looking at this 19,250 area. If we break that, we're looking for 19,500. If we lose 19,100, we turn back down, but this is favoring upside from a technical standpoint. We could start off a little bit weak and then start pushing again and try to make a way up to this imbalance to get close to 19,500 if we break 19,250. There is potential in this, so give this the time it needs. For the QQQ, we have this big gap above to fill up here. We're looking at 466 as our main support. As long as we hold above that, we favor upside. I think we could try to retest it and try pushing higher. Look at 468 as our next support. If that holds as well, we're looking for a rally back up to about 474. I think we could fill this gap. So I think we look bullish. We could dip a bit and start pushing for 470 and 474. The daily looks quite nice on the QQQ, the daily, and then also the 4 hours looking pretty good too, as we're holding above our 200 EMA and we have this imbalance to fill. There's also an inverse head and shoulders forming, so it favors upside. So it looks like there's more upside coming to the QQQ in my opinion. That's the most likely case. Like I said before, though, it also depends on the PPI report, but the charts look very strong after CPI came out, so we still greatly favor the upside direction. For Apple has resistance around this 223 area, or 222.5. We have support at 221 and also at 219. We're range bound right now, but Apple's at the upper end of this range. I think tomorrow we're going to be pushing for a potential test of about the resistance at 222.5. We could retest 221 first and start pushing for 222.5. If that breaks, we go higher. That's the most likely possibility from a technical standpoint. Now, it depends on PPI, of course, and initial jobless claims and these other factors, but from a technical standpoint, we look more bullish. For others out there like Palantir, we look a little bit more bullish, hitting 35 as resistance. If that breaks, there's going to be a bigger push for this 36 area. If we reject here, we're going to be looking for a move back down towards basically this imbalance will be the support at 34. If that fills us, we're going down to 33.5, eventually the 32s. So we're range bound right now, going back and forth between 33.5 and 35, but the chart looks more bullish on the 4 hour and also on the daily time frame. So we look more bullish. I think there's a good chance we try to push higher. For Supermicro, we have a nice inverse head and shoulders. If we continue to push, we're looking for basically 450's resistance, followed by 456. So I'll be watching those levels carefully. If you're bearish, you want to see it lose 421. If we lose that, we turn back down. Otherwise, this chart is favoring the inverse head and shoulders panning out for a push into like the 460s. So I presume tomorrow we could start off with some consolidation, maybe a small dip, before we continue higher and go up to that 456 target. We look more bullish. Rivian has been dumping. I was talking about how it might be testing the like 12s all over again. We came down to 13, just short of that target before it got a nice breakout. So now we're breaking this trend line. So now Nvidia is not Nvidia, sorry, Rivian. Sorry about that, guys. Rivian is now going to be testing 13.89 as resistance. If this breaks, we're going all the way up towards 14.22. If it rejects, we're going to be coming back down to 13.5. This is favoring upside for the 14.2 area. For SoFi, we have an inverse head and shoulders like structure. If we end up losing, hypothetically, 7.17, look for a dip back down to 7. If we break past 7.3, we're going to be looking for a pump to 7.5. I think that it could dip a little bit to reach a 7.2 and then try to push back up higher. And I think that there's potential for this to get up to 7.5. For the IWM Russell 2000, we look a little bit more bullish. We may have bottomed at 204. We formed a bullish divergence upon hitting it, and this looks like it wants to rebound. So if we were to lose 208, we could dip to 206 again. If we break past 209.5, we're looking for a push for 211.5. I'm favoring a push for 210, followed by a nice break of about 211.5. So we're favoring upside and a nice push for the IWM, and I think there's a good chance we try to get up there. For AMD, we look a little bit more bullish. So one thing worth mentioning is that we broke this trend line a couple of days ago. We had a nice inverse head and shoulders inverse head and shoulders that I was talking about, excuse me. And we have this resistance now around this 150 area. If we lose 148, I'd be looking for 145. And if we hold above 148, we're looking for a potential push for the chop zone resistance around 152. So I think tomorrow we're going to be testing, we could dip a bit to retest 148 and bounce. And we might be shuffling at 150. We'll see if we break that or not. It's going to be a tough resistance. If we break that, we could be looking for the mid 150s, but it's going to be a tough area first. For ARM, we look a little bit more bullish. We are looking at a higher low that was established right over here. If you turn bearish, you want to see it lose 138. If that fails us, we're going down to 133. And as long as we're above 138, we're going to be favoring upside. So I think that this imbalance here is going to attract us up to about 144. The chart looks more bullish from a technical standpoint. We'll see what happens with PPI, but this is still favoring upside. Coinbase looks a little bit more bullish as we're trying to make higher lows, but the issue is we haven't broken resistance. Look at 158.64 as resistance. If we break that, we're looking for 161.5. If we lose 155, we're going to be dipping back down towards 150. But this looks bullish. If we break 159, we're looking for 161.5, and we favor upside. So for now, we are looking more bullish if we break resistance. Amazon got a nice breakout. I was talking about how if we had held above 180, we were looking for a breakout. If we lost this, we would turn bearish. We did lose it temporarily, only to reclaim it as the buyers came back. So Amazon is looking more bullish. If we were to lose 182.5, we're looking for 180 again. And if as long as we hold above 182.5, we're favoring a bigger move to the upside. We have 185 as resistance. If that breaks, we're looking for 187.5, and eventually 190. So we look more bullish. We're favoring upside. I think we could be pushing for the higher 180s, like 187 plus. So we look quite good in my opinion. For Meta, we look pretty good. We're testing resistance at the 50 EMA. If we were to lose 506, we're looking for a dump back down to about 499. If we break past 506, we're looking for a big push for about basically this 520 area. So I think that we're going to be testing 512 tomorrow. If we hold 512, there's going to be a bigger push closer to 520 coming. If we don't hold above 512, we're going to be dipping. So it's going to be a big test of resistance. This depends on PPI. So we will see if Meta could break this. It's still in a range. Microsoft did a good job at hitting 420. That's going to be a tough resistance. Went up to my target of 424. If we were to reject and we don't hold above 422, we're looking for a dip back down to about 419.67. And if, even if we do dip a bit, we need to reclaim and hold above 422. If we hold this, I see potential for this to go all the way up to about 426. So there's potential in Microsoft. For Google, we came close to my target of 153. We'll see if that breaks or not. Tomorrow is going to be a big test. We could reject here and then try to continue to break through this. I see potential for us to go up to about 155, but we'll see if this holds. So I'll watch this very, very carefully. For stocks like DJT, there was a big reaction after the debate that was happening yesterday. So it was pretty wild. We got this big rejection on the 4-hour time frame. We need to break past 17 to turn back up to 17.8. And if we don't reclaim that, we could be dipping back down towards 15 again. It looks a little bit weak right now. It's still kind of lackluster. It may take some time for it to recover. So there might be a little bit more downside before it tries to bounce. For the VIX, we're dipping. The 4 hours looking kind of weak. We're barely at 17.6 tomorrow. So whether or not this breaks depends on the very, very key PPI report and also initial jobless claims. The VIX is bearish looking as we're making lower highs. So if we lose 17.6, we're looking for this gap fill all the way down towards 15. I see a risk of downside, so just be very careful. That suggests the market may be pushing higher, causing the VIX to dip, by the way. The 10-year is also dipping. We'll see how it reacts. It's still kind of flat right now, so give it some time. And then finally, the dollar index is kind of flat. We'll have to see what kind of reaction we get with the dollar. We're trying to push up higher, but this resistance around this 108.5 area is going to be tough. So we'll see if it rejects or not. It's going to be a tough resistance, but don't worry too much about the dollar. Focus more on the charts because the dollar is not really affecting us as much. And there is a risk of it rejecting if the market continues to pump the way it is. With that being said, tomorrow is going to be a big day. We're going to likely see some volatility. The market could start off on a weak end and then continue to pump again as we're on a big uptrend. The odds are favoring more upside for the charts as we look at PPI to be coming out. So I'll be back tomorrow to talk about PPI and how things are going. Until then, I thank you all so much for listening. Please have a great day, and I'll see you guys very soon in the next one. Thank you for listening, and peace out.